You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rodrance for Black and White Sports. Well, we've heard all the terms. He's quicker than fast. He's really smart. He's a high motor guy. He's got unbelievable hands. Wow, he sure has taken to that coaching. All the terms that you normally hear involving a white, which, by the way, that's racist in itself, a white NFL player. He really hustles. Black players can't really hustle. Black players don't really have great hands. Black players can't be a high motor guy. Do you know what white athletes can also be? They can also be elite athletes, just like a black player. Now, Aidan Hutchinson out of Michigan had been the consensus number 1 overall pick until about 2 or 3 days ago. And now you're starting to hear a lot of Trayvon Walker and a lot of Evan Neal out there floating around by the Jacksonville Jaguars as the potential pick. And now there is even word that the Lions, in theory, if Hutchinson drops a guy from Michigan, that they might be dumb enough to pass on this kid. And now we're finding out there is a narrative. An NFL scout has come out. An NFL scout has come out and says there is a racial profiling narrative absolutely around Aidan Hutchinson as a potential player in the league. Why? Because he is white. Wow. I mean, here we are. This is Outkick. At some point during his development into a premier college defensive end, headed to being a top pick during Thursday night's NFL draft, someone decided Aidan Hutchinson is productive because he merely tries hard. Yep, he's got a great motor. The narrative was established. He's really polished. The narrative continued. He's really productive at the University of Michigan, collecting 14 sacks in 2021 because he's really smart to process his coaching and translate all the technique he's learned onto the field. Black players can't do that? I find that hard to believe. The narrative on Hutchinson has been he's never been an elite athlete. Wow, his combine numbers kind of prove that, extraordinarily wrong. Extraordinarily wrong. I agree that players don't classify me as a high-ceiling player, but as a motor guy, Hutchinson said Wednesday, mere hours before he is selected in the first round. I've had that label for a while now. It's hard to break the label, but if you look at my combine, I'm at the top of the line in a lot of those drills. I think I'm extremely athletic. I think I haven't even touched my ceiling yet as a player. They want to say I have a low ceiling because I had a 14-sack season, but I think I'm just starting to get the hang of this. The metrics measuring Hutchinson's athletic ability, which you'll see in a moment, and even experts on the NFL draft, disagree with how people, quote, classify Hutchinson. But it bothers Hutchinson that he hasn't been able to shake it. Quote, it is weird. I feel like it's a negative connotation to me because you call me a motor guy, and it kind of pisses me off. But it's okay. It's okay. People have been saying that about me for a while. So the question is why people see Hutchinson as a 6'7", 260-pound player and decide he's productive for reasons that don't have anything to do with his athletic prowess, question mark. I'm not going to get into the details, Hutchinson said. I could tell you why, but it's just kind of it. It is what it is, and you know. Wow. You look at my combine and look what I've done on the field. I'm extremely athletic, and I do have a high ceiling. But people will say what they want to say. They will create their own narrative about me. Now, here we go. Hutchinson didn't want to get into the details, so it's impossible to know where he was going with that. But one NFL scout said it's simple as racial profiling. Hutchinson is white. Quote, did you see the movie? The veteran scout said, white men can't jump. You hear it, not as often as in the past, but the so-called jokes are still out there, and whispered even among people in my business, white guys cannot play cornerback. They don't have long enough arms to play in. They're not as athletic. And you need to make the point that the stuff goes both ways. Still, that narrative you're talking about applies to black players in positions that require more processing, like, of course, quarterback. All that's still out there, buddy. Let's call it what it is. This prejudiced view of people in either race is not new and lingers even when it is disproven. Just take Hutchinson himself as an example. At the NFL Combine in February, Hutchinson proved he's very athletic. He posted a 6.73 time in the three-cone drill, the fastest time by any defensive lineman over 6'5" at the Combine. Jesus, in 19 years, according to Next Gen Stats. Georgia defensive lineman Trayvon Walker is expected by some NFL people to be the first overall selection in the NFL draft, in part because he's an elite athlete. And with his 4.51 in the 40-yard dash is amazing at 6'5", 271. Hutchinson ran a 4.74 in the 40, but also had a 36-inch vertical leap compared to Walker's 35.5. And Hutchinson had a better time in the three-cone and the 20-yard shuttle. The numbers suggest he's athletic also. And it flies in the face of the argument that Hutchinson cannot get better as a pro because his production is based mostly on coaching and technique, which is already maximized. Quote, I've heard that argument, which I think is terrible, Stanford coach David Shaw, because the guy is really, really good. You don't think he has a high ceiling, question mark? I think he's really good and has a high ceiling. If he doesn't get any better, his borderline Pro Bowl rat now, in my opinion. And there's a lot of guys in the NFL that don't have his length. This guy's 6'7". People forget that. He's not 6'3". He's 6'7". He's long and aggressive, mean and fast. And so I think this guy has a better chance to be an impact player right away. After living with it for some time, the whole issue has grown a bit tiresome to Hutchinson. I'm used to it at this point. I don't think if it was my dad, former Michigan player Chris Hutchinson, because he was a high motor guy, and I'm his son, so somehow it got inherently passed. That narrative was inherently passed to me. It is what it is. I don't care at this point. The team that takes me is going to get a whole ball player. And let's go back up here. When the NFL scout said it's simple as racial profiling. Hutchinson is white. Wow. You hear it, not as often as in the past, but the so-called jokes are still out there. So we got a guy that, again, until just recently, most of the NFL pundits thought was going number one overall. But to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I've noticed over the last week or so, his stock has dropped. Nobody's played any games. There hasn't been any more combines. Nothing. But his stock has started to fade a little bit. Why? Why exactly? What changed? Trayvon Walker did not get more tape all of a sudden. They didn't have another combine, and he didn't go out and dominate it. And now we're hearing Hutchinson could theoretically drop past the Lions? What's going on here? We've got an NFL scout. This is crazy, but we've got an NFL scout that has come out and said in the NFL they still absolutely racial profile players, and they have racially profiled Aidan Hutchinson because he is white. Now you could tell, I assume he wanted to come out and say it, but he knew in this day and time he could not do that. He would get absolutely murked. The wokes would be all over him if he came out and said and admitted what I think he wanted to. I can't say that for sure. Can't say that for sure that that's what he wanted to say. But you got the sense that he knows he's being unfairly labeled. We hear it all the time. A white athlete, he's not athletic enough. He's not an elite athlete. I've heard it on some of these mock drafts lately I've listened to. Kind of funny, 3 weeks ago you wasn't saying that. Okay. You were saying he was the dominant number 1 overall pick. Now he's not? Weird. Tell me what you think, black and white sports fans. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.